Do fantasy games need to have a magic system? What if we don't homebrew them back into being Dungeons and Dragons? If your previous TTRPG games have been more hack and slash and count the cash, then the Root RPG might initially seem to be set up a little oddly. Fantasy setting with beast races but no monsters, no magic, no treasure tables, barely an equipment list. It can be hard to grasp at first why Root is angled differently. The key to understanding is that it has more than one XP system and 4 or more secret stats. This is my second video talking about the Root RPG. I'll put a link downstairs either to take you to the previous one, or later, if I've done more, a playlist if this becomes a theme on the channel. There's a lot of chatter I've heard online about modifying Root. The two things people seem to want to do most are add in a magic system and either simplify or flat out remove the reputation mechanics. And there's also people asking why this is even a Powered by the Apocalypse, PBTA, game at all. Surely with 13 different weapon moves in the core book alone, it's just too clunky. Advances seem hard, stifling character progression. Surely by now, fail XP and new moves every other session are PBTA hallmarks. First, let me talk about the advances and the lack of fail XP. Fail XP is the mechanic made very popular in PBTA games, such as Masks, of the characters getting an experience point when they miss a roll. It's a way of compensating them, encouraging them to try risky maneuvers, and the embodiment of we learn from our mistakes. 15 years ago, when it was published, I fell headlong in love with Apocalypse World for its take on action, the GM moves, giving clear agendas to the players. AW originally gave you XP for rolling with stats suggested by your GM and your fellow players, a way of shifting the action in specific directions. In the Root RPG, the system is a narrative one again, with the player alone picking 2 story beats, their drives, that will advance their character each time they're met. This is the key. It's not gain XP towards an arbitrary total. Fulfilling either drive will get them an immediate advance. With the right drives, you could hit both and get 2 advances per game session. If you are running Root and advancing has been hard, your players are not fulfilling their drives, and so maybe they've picked the wrong ones? They're free to change at the end of every session. But there is still an XP track in the Root RPG, with escalating costs and moves that unlock. Or rather, there's 4 of them, linked to the secret stats at the bottom of the character. They're not actually secret. They're not hidden. But the fact that they are indeed character stats seems to be something people miss. Root, you see, isn't Dungeons and Dragons, it's status and shenanigans. PBTA games don't have a set arrangement of stats. Each game has the ones the creators want to make the core of the setting. They're narrative choices in themselves. Root has no weird or alien or any sort of mystic stat, because it doesn't want to be yet another game where fireball spells can be the plot solution. The solution is in the stats you're given. You might say they're arranged alphabetically, but I love that the first 2 are charm and cunning, and might is the last one. Remember, the names of the stats themselves are a design choice. They could have been wit and smarts and strength, but they're not. These are the things we're being led to realize the vagabonds should exemplify. The hidden stats are the reputation system, introduced early in the book because it's the heart of the game. It's on the first side of the character sheet, before might and finesse and so on. Yes, tracking rep takes a little getting used to. I suggest you print off a character sheet or draw some boxes on squared paper and have a practice. The narrative message in the ratio between them is clear. Notoriety burns away prestige far faster than prestige builds back up from notoriety. And there's moves that benefit from the vagabond being respected or esteemed, but being disdained is of no real use compared to the utility of being actually hated. This is the real XP system. In many ways, it's the real loot in Root, because it changes the way the factions interact with the party. Remember too, the vagabonds are not the good guys. The factions think each of them are the good guys themselves. So a high rep with the Woodland Alliance means you might be treated as a visiting hero, but behind closed doors, the local cell commander trusts you're just the person to frame the marquisate for burning down the orphanage. And of course, word of their deed spreads and the factions are at war. Anytime they get 2 or more prestige from one faction, they ought to automatically earn a point of notoriety with the other factions present. They wanted you to keep your noses out of it. You offered aid to their enemy. Realize too that the characters each have their own tracks for faction reputations, and this is a wonderful source of opportunity for role-playing within the group. Who will advocate for the biggest impacts, and who the least ripples based on their current standings? Who wants to be reviled enough to unlock the low rep moves? Reputation gains or losses are the treasure, not magic swords. Speaking of weapons, are there too many weapon moves? I'd say no, and I might write some more for my campaign. Giving characters different flavors in combat is a great way to ensure people get included tactically. I don't use rounds in PBTA games, and I let the players plan. If someone wants to throw flour in a crazed baker's eyes to give someone else time to hit them round the head with a frying pan, then that's great. You do want to avoid people looking blankly at a big sheet of paper and then rushing to one of the first 3 options. I do this by making cards and giving them out to the relevant players. That way a player is never having to scan past moves they can't do to get to the ones that make them exceptional. Oh, and why no magic? And why not add magic? Well, you can. You can bolt on a magic system if you want to, but the RPG is only one tier of action in the Woodland War. It's the ground floor. The characters aren't here to fight the war and win it, otherwise there's no space above them in the narrative for the board game. Individuals are not meant to be more powerful than factions, and prevalence of wizards would spoil that. See it as a challenge, as a feature, not a bug. I think it's refreshing, and it pushes me as a GM to have one less narrative handwave. So there you have it. In Root RPG, the real treasure is the friends they met along the way, and the enemies. If you want to see my guide to planning a Root campaign without writing any adventures, then I have a video. Alright, I have a Root-specific playlist on my channel page. I've just realised what my next Root video should be. And if you're worried an NPC-heavy game means doing lots of voices, then I think you should watch this video next.